Hello. I was a doctoral student at IFAE. My name is Federico Nova for the very short period of 8 years, working in neutrino physics on the K2K experiment and the NEMO-3 experiment. So since I left IFAE, I have still been doing research on neutrinos. I had a first postdoctoral position in a university in Texas, where I continued to work on NEMO-3 and then on Super NEMO, which is the next generation version of NEMO-3, which in fact has started taking data a few months ago. I also did a small funny experiment called CHIPS in America. You see a picture here in which we build a balloon, which is to be used as a Cherenkov detector, and then we submerge it in a lake. It was fun. And then now I have another postdoctoral position in England, where I am working on the Hyperkamiokande experiment, of which you see here an artist impression, which is essentially the grandson of K2K. And also now I am a lecturer for the Oxford College. So when I was in IFAE, I met for the first time some very new problems for me in computation. I'm sure all the students will be facing these problems. Learning what to do with GCC, with root, with Jant4, with LaTeX was really horrible at first. And I think also for the first time I discovered some statistical analysis tools, like Monte Carlo method, for example, or Feldman-Kausen statistics. And I worked on analysis and I worked on tracking for the NEMO-3 experiment. Here you see an example of some tracks reconstructed by my code in the NEMO-3 detector. So then when I left IFAE, I continued to work on tracking for the Super NEMO experiment. So tracking is very important for these experiments because they rely heavily on it. And so I developed some five-dimensional histogram method to recognize patterns in those events. I continued to work on computation, and I was leader of the software group in the US. And it's funny because I hated it and now I really enjoy it, actually. So don't give up. And I learned some new tools for analysis, like multivariate analysis tools, for example, KNN or the boosted decision tree, which we have been using for example, for identifying radioactivity contamination on the source of NEMO-3 or for trying to improve the energy resolution for Super NEMO. And now I work on Hyperkamiokande, where I'm still dealing with computation. So most recent skill is to do parallel computation on GPU cards, graphical processing units, which is very useful because whenever in a code you have a loop, and normally you iterate over this loop and you have to do all the iterations serially. Now you can do them at once in parallel. So it's much faster, and we use that for building a very interesting topic, which is building the data acquisition system for Hyperkamiokande, and then I still do analysis and simulation and all of that. So thank you very much for inviting me here. I'm very happy to be here. This is a picture of the neutrinos group in 2004, in which you can recognize some known faces. This is me. This is Federico Sanchez. Back then, Federico was Federico Senior, and I was Federico Junior, but I think now I look more senior than you do. And Enrico Fernandez. Thank you.